Last thing today, Richie, and we'll get out of here. There's a lot of Jimbo talk. There's a lot of, not even rumors. Like Jimbo just came out and said, hey, I want to get back into coaching. And that doesn't really surprise me. I actually spoke with a couple of people before we got on here. One of them you know very well. I'll tell you when we get off here. I just can't release names while we're here live. But I spoke with some people. Yeah, I do think I don't think he's BSing. I think he would like to get back into coaching. My question is, would you take Jimbo back? Listen, I like Mike. This is not me firing Mike. Nobody get on my case for this. But would you take Jimbo back at FSU next year if things went poorly for Mike this year?
Depends who else is out there. I lean towards no, because
okay. Can I follow up on that real quick before you? Yeah. I want to follow up with a question. I'm not going to steal your shine. Do you think FSU could pull somebody that would be better than Jimbo? I guess would be the question. Like, do you want Jimbo or like some group of 5 coach that's like Mike 2.0 would be? Cause I don't think they're pulling, like they ain't pulling somebody great in my opinion. So like, that's kind of what I would think to answer your question.
So I would say I would take Jimbo over probably any group of 5 coach, because doing it at the G5 level and doing it at the highest level is very difficult. It's a difficult transition. We've seen it, Urban did it. But it's been done, but why open up old wounds? I'm very appreciative of Jimbo. I think when he was in Tallahassee, especially that run from 2012 to 16, it was phenomenal. It was, I woke up every Saturday morning thinking Florida State was going to win. I cannot say that right now. And the national title team that he put together, he recruited them. He put the coaches around them to develop them. You know what the average score was for that team? Their average win margin was 42 point something points per game. And that would have ranked like second or third highest in total points per game by anyone else. Just looking at their offense. So you had the best.
The defense gave up 11 points a game. Like it was insane.
You had the best offense, the best defense in the country.
And the best kicker.
And the best kicker. Shout out Roberto. There was just he put that team together. And that was when he took over after Bobby. I remember seeing an ESPN article where they let I forget which reporter it was, but they let him into one of his coaches' meetings. And he said, we need grown ass men in a recruiting meeting. And that's exactly what he went out and got. And everything paid off. The tail end of Texas A&M, I don't know if it was warranted to fire him, but the thing about A&M, they have all the money in the world, so they didn't care. They're like, fans aren't happy, let's get rid of them. But I know a lot of Florida State fans who wanted Jimbo fired after 2011, and especially after 2011 when we had the several losses, bad losses. The one up at Wake Forest when he refused to start EJ, said he would only come in if it was an extreme emergency and nobody got hurt. And he's like, okay, EJ, go back out there. He made a lot of questionable decisions early, but he was early as a head coach. Long story short, I would not be upset if we brought him back. But I would lean towards somebody else if you could get someone at or above that level.
If you are going to the FSU Alabama game and you need a spot to tailgate, come hang out with your boys. Double Fries No Slaw tailgating right outside of Doak Campbell Stadium. All the Guthries you can eat, all the drinks that you can drink, shade, TVs, everything you're looking for to tailgate before FSU puts toe to leather against Alabama will be happening. It's the Double Fries No Slaw tailgate. You can go to fsubama.eventbrite.com to get tickets. Excited for you guys to get out there and hang out with us, and can't wait to see you. Yeah, so my thought would be, it would be a little, there would be some awkwardness with it, right? There certainly would. But I try to think of who you could get. And I don't think you're pulling anybody from the Big Ten or the SEC.
No.
Right? Like, I mean, could you maybe go out and get somebody at a lower level, like could you pull from Rutgers? Could you pull from Mississippi State? Sure. Do you want to? Right? Like, do you, Mark Stoops? Is he, could you maybe a bottom tier? But then are you wanting to? Right? Like, is Mark Stoops a better coach than Jimbo Fisher? Right? Like that. I think I'd lean Jimbo's way over that. Then I think like, okay, well, you could maybe pull somebody from the Big 12, but like, how many are there that you would just fall over for? Right? I know that certainly people in the comments will say Dion, but you'd be looking like at the ACC Big 12 coaches and thinking like, who could I get that I know is better than Jimbo? Like Dilly would be a name that I think gets thrown around. I don't think he's ever leaving Arizona State, just personally. Rhett Lashley is a name that I think might get thrown around. Could you pay more than an SMU? Brent Key is an interesting name at Georgia Tech. I think he would be somebody you consider. Manny Diaz is a name that's come up if he has another good year with Duke. Fran Brown's a name that's come up. So yeah, I think if you could go get like a Fran Brown or Rhett Lashley or something like that, then that all is, like you'd take that. But if you start getting into that next tier of like, okay, where are you going after that, right? You going group of 5? Are you going like bottom half of the ACC? Are you going, bottom half of the Big 12? If that's where you're at, like if you strike out on your first couple, I think you got to go, Joe. I think you got to make a play at it, right?
Yeah, let me give you a hypothetical. We're down to our final 2 options. Michael Alford has to make a decision, and the final 2 options are Jimbo and Gus.
Yeah, I'd take Jimbo, 100%.
Yeah.
Is Jimbo a little bit, Jimbo has been better more recently. I think they're similar in age, but I do want to look at that real quick. Jimbo Fisher age he's 59 and Gus Malzahn age. I think they're pretty similar. Yeah. Ironically, they're both 59. And actually they're 21 days apart. So or 19 days apart. My math sucks. So yeah, they're exactly the same age. I think I'd lean Jimbo there. I'm not confident. I think Jimbo can CEO things a little bit better than I have confidence in Malzahn doing. I think Jimbo, his peak was better than Malzahn at his peak. I think Jimbo's familiarity, and the fact that Jimbo would absolutely, I would know that we would be in a good place from an organizational standpoint, because part of the reason he's not here or he wasn't here anymore was because we were so idiotic from an administration standpoint. And I know that he wouldn't come back unless we had things figured out, from the administration side. And so I don't know if Gus would demand that or not. I don't know anything about him, but I know that Jimbo would, so it would make me confident from that side. The other thing too, is I was talking to Harlan about this before we got on. You've seen some coaches return recently, from Scott Frost going back to UCF, Rich Rodriguez going back to West Virginia. This is not like that crazy of an idea to think that a coach would maybe leave, not have the best experience, and then come back home to where he originally was. So I don't know, something to think about, but all things considered, I think I would take him back.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one thing that would intrigue him is you have a new president of the university. You have a new AD who is very much liked. The boosters have completely restructured how they do things. So he would not be walking into the same situation that he walked away from.
Yeah.
And the one thing that would be awesome is we would not be doing these videos throughout the summer talking about, are you concerned about our recruiting right now? Because that's one thing Jimbo knows how to do, is recruit elite talent. He would just have to surround himself with assistants who could, develop that talent. And then, and I think he still has enough respect in the college football world among college football coaches that, some assistants may say, maybe I will leave maybe there's an up and comer from an Ohio State who's an assistant that a lot of people peg as, one of the top OC candidates in the country. He could probably convince him to come there. So I think it's something to consider. It's a fun hypothetical. Obviously, Mike Norvell is still the head coach at Florida State. I think we all still support him. We want him to do well. But if things, go off the deep end this year, then, there's going to be some tough decisions that need to be made in the Moore Center.
Yeah. Dude, I wanted Jimbo gone in 2017.
I did too.
Say that. I absolutely, I was like, get him out of here. I was thrilled that he was leaving. And then it's like you never know what you had until it's gone type of thing. Where we've had a few, several rough seasons, really good ones in there too, but a lot of roughness since he's been gone. So I also think that there'd be pretty clear expectations of like, hey, I don't think Jimbo would do it forever, right? He'd be 60 at the time that he would take any kind of a new job, whether it was here or wherever. I think he would probably have a plan of, hey, I want to do this for X number of years, whether that's 5 or 6 years, and then I want to move on, right, and get kind of back to where, I I'm not in the grind of it. So, yeah, I we'll see, right? We'll see what happens. I'm not projecting him here. I hope we win 16 games this year and win the national championship. But a lot of Jimbo talk on the timeline and everywhere else this week, and so thought it'd be fun to talk with you about it, Richie. So hopefully we didn't upset too many people.
Yeah, I'll just say this as a closing thought on this topic. I think he wants to coach in the SEC.
We might be a few years away from that.
You heard it here first. August 10th, 2025. Double fries, no slaw.
Some people are mentioning Tony White. I think that on both coordinators, I think both are possible, but it would have to be such a weird situation that would lead to either coordinator getting promoted. And this is not like a hot board or, this was really just like, would Jimbo come back to FSU, whether it was next year or in 5 years or whatever. But on the coordinators, to me, you would have to have like a top 30 defense and like a top 80 offense or something where like you're losing games 17-14 every week and your defense is just unreal and your offense can't score like last year's for Tony White to get promoted, or the inverse for Gus to get promoted, right? The defense is atrocious and you're losing games 45-42 because your offense is going blow for blow, but your defense is, and I don't really see that scenario playing out. I think Florida State's going to be, considerably better than they were last year, but I think they're like, they got a little bit better at every position. They're a little bit better at quarterback. They're a little bit better at O-line. They're a little bit better at running back. They're a little bit better at D-line. They're a little bit better at DB. They're a little bit better at linebacker. And so it would just, I think Tony White would be fine. I think he'd be a great head coach. I think it wouldn't shock me at all if he is a head coach somewhere next year. But I think it'd take a really, really specific set of circumstances for that to happen. I also think that athletic directors like to make their own decisions. And Alfred, remember, didn't hire Norvell. And so I don't think he would want to promote from within. Just personally, I don't think he would want to promote from within. I think he would want to go out and get his guy. I don't think he'd want to tie his legacy. Because if let's be honest, if Alfred hires somebody and that person fails, Alfred's out. Like, that's just how it works as being an athletic director. I think Alfred would want to go get his guy, not the guy that Mike hired, right, and promote. So I've seen some comments on different coordinators and stuff. Those are my thoughts there. It doesn't make me right, but that's just the way that I think it would go down if that was to be the case. Richie?
Yeah, no, I agree. Alfred, I think he was all in on Mike Norvell. I think he might have a little bit of pause after what happened last season, because even with all the circumstances, 2-10 is never acceptable. 6-6 should only be acceptable maybe once every 8 or 9 years. It's Florida State. This is a program that finished in the top 4 in the nation 14 years in a row. Now, that'll never be duplicated. But the expectations should be much higher here. And if they're not, then we have a problem. And I think Alfred really understands that. So if things, again, Mike Norvell's still the head coach, we're all pulling for him. We want him to be successful because it makes things a lot easier to where we're not paying out $60 million just to fire a guy, then pay another guy $10 million a year to come in here, because that's probably the going rate, even for just any somewhat big name right now. So we'll see what happens. But, it's fun. We're having a couple hypothetical conversations here, but, the season starts very, very soon. Very excited about it and cannot wait to getting into the meat of what the season looks like. We ranked the schedule today. I'd love to hear all of y'all's thoughts on who did a better job, TJ or myself. And the answer is myself. But,
I promise you this. There is nothing worse than having to get on here after a loss. And we did that 10 times last year. So I promise you, if there's anybody that wants Florida State to be good, it is me and Richie, right? I think when we started this, we very much went down like the fan route of this, right? Like, not trying to be a journalist or not trying to have insight on this or that or the other. Like, we want to be pretty emotional and pretty raw as fans. And other people are able to maybe get away with not caring as much, I guess, because they it is their job or whatever. And I guess I do this for kind of a living too. But I promise you, there's nobody that hates when we lose more more than me and Richie. I wanted to call out after that Jacksonville State game so bad it wasn't even funny. So
ironically, I think nobody wants Florida State to beat Alabama more than my wife because she knows that will just ruin opening weekend of college football for me, and she is a huge Bama fan.